Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar that we're going to have on the HR1 Support Center. My name is Whitney Carl, and I'm an analyst here at HR1. Today's webinar is going to be going over this new product that HR1 is launching called the HR1 Support Center. This HR1 Support Center is a web-based platform of a variety of tools and resources that's going to enhance your relationship with your senior consultant here at HR1. With the Support Center, one of the critical aspects that makes it so valuable is that you have 24/7 access to this content. I will reiterate this at the end, but the process is going to be come June when this product is launched. You'll receive an email from the HR1 Support Center with your username and password so you can log into your account and start accessing this information. But today we're going to give you an overview of the resources that are available, and those include articles, video resources, podcasts, downloadable templates for forms and job descriptions, and also you can research employment laws and retrieve an extensive base of HR knowledge. The webinar should last approximately 30 minutes or so today. If you have any questions, we encourage you to submit those in the chat feature. Those will be monitored throughout the webinar and we'll answer those as we can. If you have any questions following the webinar or if they're not addressed in that chat feature, please reach out to us via email at info@people2payroll.com, and we'll go ahead and answer those as soon as possible. And one last housekeeping item, I have muted everyone's phones just to ensure that we have that highest sound quality and everyone can understand and the sound is coming through speakers clearly. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. So your screen should change where you can now see the HR1 Support Center login page. So this is what you'll see when you go ahead and log into the Support Center. And like I mentioned, you'll get your login credentials in June in an email that's sent directly to you. So I want to go ahead and start and provide you with an overview of the home page that you'll see when you log in. And this is what you see on your screen now. So you can see at the top of the page there are 5 drop-down menus. Those include topics, laws, learning, tools, and documents. In the topics section, you'll see there's a variety of different HR topics, including employee management, healthcare reform, which is a huge one. I think we all know that the information under healthcare reform is constantly changing, the requirements and reporting materials. So what's great about this is it takes all of that and puts it in one place for you to access those resources. It includes things like hiring, safety, terminations. Then there's the law section where you can look at laws at a glance. You can search by federal or state laws, or you can use the law finder if you're looking for a specific law. In the learning drop-down menu, you have your 2-minute HR videos. So these are training HR videos that are condensed down into 2 minutes to provide a high-level overview. There's articles written by HR professionals. HR casts are podcasts that are produced on HR topics. Infographics you can download and print out to use. News desk is articles that are published based off of news happening with topics in the HR field. The Q&A stream are questions that users are submitting to the Support Center, and then they're being fielded here on this portion of the site where everyone can access them and review the answers, because it's often we found that organizations have similar questions. So this is a great resource for everybody. Then finally, there's the training on demand videos. So compared to the 2-minute HR videos, these are what I refer to as a full-length video. So it's a training video that goes more in depth that lasts anywhere between about 15 to 40 minutes based off of the topic and content. The Tools section contains calculators, employee handbooks. It directs you to our site to work with your senior HR consultant, HR audits that you can complete, job description library, so those are job description templates that you can download and customize, a minimum wage map, a policy library, and finally in the document section there's checklists, forms, guides, letters, and those are all templates that you can download and customize. So we'll be going through some of those things in more detail. I want to continue with going through an overview of this home page. So you'll see a welcome message here on the left-hand side from HR1. In this next section here, the What's New for You section. So this is content that is constantly being updated based off of new questions, new policies and articles that are released. So you'll see this changing from month to month. Then in the HR Central, there's 3 different sections here. On the left-hand side, you'll see the recent Q&A stream. So there is an extensive resource of question and answer section. However, this Q&A stream is the most recent questions that you can find on here. The most popular content isn't changing as much as the other items, but this is where you can find some of the most popular Word documents. Is typically what's used here for the HR field. And then on the far right-hand side is information from the news desk that is pushed through to you based off of your customization. And at the bottom here on the left-hand side is the My Favorite section. So throughout the site, when you find resources that you like, you can identify them as your favorites, and that's saving them here on this home page. So that can be helpful for when you find a resource that you are going back to often. So if you're using the same form over and over again, you can find it here on your home page instead of searching for it. Or for example, if you want to have a team huddle or a staff meeting and show maybe a 2-minute HR video to everybody, instead of finding it on the site, you can indicate it as your favorites. So in the middle of the meeting when you need to pull it up, it's right here and easily accessible for you. And on the bottom right hand of the page is a featured training for you to access. So that's an overview of the home page and what you'll see when you log in. Now I want to go ahead and go over the account information you'll see here on the top right hand corner. So here at HR1, we found that a one-size-fits-all approach to HR really doesn't work. There's so many different variables that come into play and that need to be taken into consideration when taking action on HR items. So one of the great features about this site is that you can customize it based off of your size, culture, industry, and geographical location of your company. And that's why everyone is going to get their own username and password to this. And this section that I'm going to go over is really how you can customize this site to maximize the use of the resources. So in the first drop down here is My Profile. So you'll see information that is relevant to your specific company. And what I do want to point out here is that the city and the state is going to come into play. Where you're geographically located is customized to what you're going to see for your specific articles. And then the next thing is a drop-down for My Mobile Account. So you do have access to this same content on the go. The app is called HR Pro. And what you can do is you first have to register your account on this website. Then you can download the HR Pro mobile app. It's free in the App Store. And then you can log in and you have access to all of this information on the go. So if you're in the car, it's a way to listen to the podcast, or maybe, for example, you're out of the office and on site for one of your company's work sites, you can still have access to this information if you do need it. The next one is for the handbooks. So here at HR1, we really believe that handbooks should be right-sized for a company and customized based off of those things that I mentioned, the size, culture, industry, but also ensuring that they're up to date and in compliance. So if you've done a handbook 5 or 6 years ago, it's probably time to get that up to date. So if you're a client of ours, we hope you've worked with your senior consultant to make sure that's up to date. And if not, now would be a great time to do so and reach out to them. The next section is the My Subscriptions. So this is where you can customize the notifications you're going to get via email. So you can customize this based off of the state that you're in. So for example, if we want to remove Maine, Massachusetts, and Indiana, maybe we want to add Arkansas and Ohio. You simply do that by clicking on them and moving them over. There is an advisor newsletter that you can go ahead and add and subscribe to that as well. And then all you do is click Save Changes at the bottom. You can do this whenever necessary. You can also do the same thing for topics. So on the What's New section of your homepage that we went over, you can customize the topics of the content that you're going to get on your homepage. And you simply click follow or unfollow based off of what your preferences are. And then the other customization piece is you can make the updates for the states that you want to see on your homepage. So again, just like before, you simply click on it to remove it, and you can click on one to add it here and save your changes. So this is key to ensure that the information that you're seeing on your homepage is relevant to the needs of your organization. And what I do want to point out is that by customizing what you see on your homepage and email does not limit what you can access in the site. You still have access to all of the information on the site. It's really just similar to push notifications you receive on your mobile device and what is coming to the forefront of your attention. Then on the favorites page here, so we went over the favorites on the home page. Accessing it this way, just another way you can link to that resource, but this is where you can also unfavorite something. So if you click on unfavorite, it's going to remove it from the home page section. And then last but not least here is the HR audits. So before I get into the HR audits, I just do want to remind people that if you do have questions throughout the presentation, you can submit those through the chat feature on your screen, or you can go ahead and follow up with us by emailing at info-to-payroll. So the HR audit that we're going to discuss now, this does not replace the actual on-site audit that we do with your company. That's a very specific and in-depth audit for you. This audit is more of just a general overview at a very high level. It just takes a few minutes, so we're going to go ahead and look at this very quickly together. For this purpose, we're going to look at a company called ABC Company. We're just going to go ahead and base these results off of the demo company. First question is, when was your employee's handbook last updated? So in this case, it was over a year ago. Which employee classifications does your company handbook identify? So we have regular and temporary employees for ABC Company. Does your company prepare written offer letters to candidates? Sometimes. Does your company have a current document that shows which employment laws apply based off of your numbers? In this case, not all in one reference. Does your company conduct performance reviews? On occasion. In general, how up to date are the job descriptions for each job within the organization? Over a year. How long does your company retain employee records? Over 6 years. Do you have all appropriate new hire forms required by both federal and state statutes? Some. What type of posters does your company conspicuously display at your facility? ABC Company has federal and state posters. Does your company have a policy against unwanted harassment in the workplace? Somewhat. And as you can see, I went through that pretty quickly. That is something that you can do in depth. And what you can do is finish this audit. And once I go ahead and finish it, I can look at the PDF to view my results immediately. So that's one of the great things, is that you can take the audit and the results are available immediately. In this case, I got a score of 27 out of 50 for the ABC company, and it's indicating that it's time to close the gaps. And this information is going to really help you identify what exposure your company may have, and then what steps you can take to eliminate or reduce those exposures. So this PDF goes over each of the questions, what you put for an answer, and then some information providing feedback with just that. What are some of the next steps that need to be taken? This is a great resource for your company to do and review with your senior HR consultant. This is a great way to set the strategic plan for the year, because like I mentioned, it's identifying the gaps and exposures you may have and helping set the tone for how you can minimize those. And as it's loading, as you can see here, I've taken several of these audits. You can take them as frequently as you'd like. This may be a great way to set metrics and measure your progress throughout the year. If you take one in January and then one in December, you can see if the work you've done has been improving and reducing those exposures. So now that we've looked at the audit, we're going to go ahead and move on to those drop-down menus I discussed in the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and look at one of the topics here for leaves and accommodations. So leaves and accommodations, they usually start with somebody getting hurt. That's what we hear most from our clients. And we've heard time and time again from several of our clients, an employee comes to you and is hurt and has a script in their hand that's scribbled on it from a doctor and you can barely read it, and you're looking at it thinking, well, what do I do next? What are the procedures that should take place? So this leave and accommodation section can help you in determining what those next steps are and working with your senior HR consultant to provide you with the resources to be successful in the next steps for those leaves and accommodations. So when you look on this page, you can see that the content is sorted by the type of resource. So it's sorted by guides, forms, letters, laws, policies. And I do want to take the time to point out on the left-hand side under the region section, you'll see that there are certain states that are automatically selected. This is where that customization comes into play. And this is what we have defaulted to be following. Like I said, it doesn't limit the content that you can see, so I can always unclick and simply click a new state to go ahead and look at those resources, because they may vary from state to state. So looking here, I mentioned that there are 2-minute HR videos, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at one of those. And for example, an ADA Part 1. So there is a Part 1 and Part 2, so these training resources do build off of one another. So in this specific 2-minute HR video, it goes over how does the ADA apply to your organization, and if so, which employees are entitled to its protections. So another thing that I want to point out here is that you can play the video. On the left-hand side, you can see recommended and related content. So this site is intuitive to help you maximize the utilization of these resources. So you're watching a 2-minute training video on ADA, but then it directs you to, okay, here's some related content. Do you want an in-depth training video? Here's an employer's guide that you can then follow to implement ADA if you need to. So it's great that you don't have to start over every time looking for additional resources. It's helping you, guide you based off of what you're looking at. And speaking of what you're looking for, here on the right-hand side, immediately under the drop-down menu, is the search bar. So you can use the search bar to find things in the site if you are looking for a specific topic or form. This is another way you can search the site instead of going through one of the drop-downs. Moving on to the law section, we're going to look at a glance here. So I want to point out on the left-hand side where it says selected state, in this case it's defaulted to New York because that is where our company is headquartered, here in New York. So this is a great way to compare laws or look up laws that you may need. So for example, with break laws, in New York State, generally speaking, an employee is required a meal time of at least 30 minutes some other variables do come into play, but it lists the specific criteria here for New York. However, if we go ahead and look at another state, let's say Florida, and we go look at their break laws, it indicates that Florida does not have any state laws requiring meals or breaks. So this is great for researching information to ensure that you are in compliance with both federal and state laws. And on the right-hand side, it provides information on the state demographic and also contact information for the Department of Labor if you do need to reach out there. The next section is the Learning tab. So I mentioned there's the 2-minute HR videos, there's articles, the HR cast we can take a look at. So I mentioned these are the podcasts that are updated monthly. So it has them all listed here. On the left-hand side, you can search by topic. This is a way where you can use the search feature. So if you look, for example, for FLSA, which is the Fair Labor Standard Act, so we can find a podcast here where it's going to go over the overtime rules and FAQ. So all you would have to simply do is press the play button to engage this podcast. What I do want to point out here is that at the top of this podcast, it has some wording indicating that the FLSA overtime rules have been delayed based off of the courts. What's another great asset about this is that this is referred to as a living library for the content here. So to provide you with the most up-to-date information, it's constantly changing, and they're trying to push through as much up-to-date information as possible so you can still get an overview of FLSA, but to ensure you're aware that this is on hold. So that's a great feature of the site. Then, like I mentioned, you can access the infographics, the news desk, the Q&A stream, and the training on demand here. So for example, with the training on demand, I refer to this as more of a full-length video. So you can click on a video, and it's going to look very similar to the 2-minute HR video, but in this case, it's a 24-minute training video on termination. So this is where the variety of resources is a great asset, because maybe your company has an employee that is really going to be handling the terminations. So this training could be specific for them. And this is a great resource for your senior HR consultant to work with you as well, to have a video to be a base training, and then for the senior HR consultant to build upon that and further customize it for your organization. And it's a great way for your senior HR consultant to provide you resources when they may not be on site. So it's going to continue to enhance the service that they're providing. Then moving over to tools here, I mentioned that there's a calculator feature. So there are calculators for a variety of different things. We're going to go ahead and just take a quick look at the ACA full-time equivalent. So this is for the Affordable Care Act. To be subject to that, you have to have a minimum of 50 full-time employees. This calculator takes into consideration the number of part-time employees that you have and how that may translate to full-time employees. So in this example, we'll say that a company has 20 employees, and in a month, they're working a total of 2,800 hours. Go ahead and calculate this, and it indicates that for these figures, that's the equivalent of 43.33 full-time employees. So in this case, this company would not be subject to the ACA requirements. Looking at the other tools, so I mentioned the employee handbooks, customized for your organization. You'll want to work with your senior HR consultant on that. The HR audit we took a look at. This is just another way to access that. Then there is the job description library. So these are templates that you can use. Just like I mentioned before, the one-size-fits-all doesn't apply to HR topics. This is even true with the job descriptions. You want to make sure that the job descriptions are right size to what the employee is actually doing. And we've heard time and time again from our consultants when they're working with their clients and trying to get the job description project done, An employee may turn in a job description questionnaire and they provided limited information. You know, receive checks, pay checks, keep records up to date. Yes, that's what they're doing, but with a job description, you want to elaborate on that more. So then you can take the next step by going ahead and pulling one of these job descriptions down. You can either preview it or you can download it. And this is an example of what it will look like. You'll see on your screen here. So what I was mentioning there, it lists the essential duties and responsibilities. You can use this to further build out your job description. And that's where working with your senior HR consultant can help you in using these job description templates, transferring them over to what your employee is actually doing to make sure that you have a comprehensive, specific, compliant, and up-to-date job description for each one of your employees' roles. And these templates just make getting that end product done even easier. Another tool is the minimum wage map. So this map here lists the 50 states in the District of Columbia. The color of the state is based off of the minimum wage there. The darker the state, the higher the minimum wage. The lighter the color in the state, the lower the minimum wage. So all you would have to do is click on a state, and on the right-hand side, it lists information on the minimum wage there. So if you go ahead and just click on another state, it's going to update the information on the right-hand side. And then last in the tool section is the policy library. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up with just a couple more things in the document section. So there are checklists that you can download and use. So for example, in the HR administration, there is a record filing checklist. Every one of our clients, every company has some type of employee records. And it's one of those things, it's important to ensure that they're up to date and the filing is compliant. But if you haven't been keeping up with it, even just starting that task can seem overwhelming, and asking yourself questions like, well, where do I even start, or what needs to be filed where to be in compliance? Or maybe I didn't even know that there was specific filing compliance. This filing checklist indicates what's required and where it needs to be located. And this is a great tool to help with a project like that. Also in the document section are forms. So a form that we can go ahead and take a look at as an example is in the compensation section. There is an employee total compensation statement. So this includes a cover letter along with a chart on the second page. So a total compensation statement is a great retention tool to use for employees. However, it can be very challenging to start or to, come up with a format that includes everything. This, go ahead and get that started for you. So this is downloadable and customizable, so you can go ahead and add or remove benefits that you have on there. And this is a great way to partner with your senior HR consultant and talk about doing this for your employees so they can really understand the full value, not only of their wages, but of their total compensation that your company has provided. And again, this is a great retention tool. I do want to point out here under the search bar on the right-hand side is the favorites button. So I talked about that a couple of times. You can click on this favorites button, and that's how easy it is to add something to your home page. Then there are guides that you can use. So for example, here, let's take a look at training and development. So there's the SMART Goals Guide. So as part of the performance review process, you're encouraged for employees to create SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So this guide goes over how to make SMART goals, what theirs are, and each portion of those SMART goals. As a company, it's your goal to make sure employees are as successful as possible. And SMART goals are a great way of measuring that success and improving employee success. So this is a guide to go ahead and help you in formalizing that process and making that even better. And last but not least, over here in the letters section, so we're going to go ahead and look at the hiring, recruitment, and retention. So looking at the job candidate rejection letter. So when it comes to hiring, especially with smaller companies, it's something that you don't do very often. And if it's been a while since you've hired for a position, you may find yourself thinking, well, what is the process, or what do I have to do? And that's really the most overwhelming part, is just not doing it that frequently. So as part of the hiring process, you're going to post a job and get hopefully several applications. You'll end up deciding on one. And then you may ask yourself, well, what do I do to notify all of those people that I didn't pick? And this is a great resource that you can use and customize. So this rejection letter is a template that you can use, customize for your organization, and then use this to either send out via mail or email to the different candidates. And that way you're not starting from scratch with this. So that wraps up the resources that I am going to go over today. As you can see, I condensed a lot of information into a short amount of time. This is just meant to be an overview of what you will see. So as a reminder, at the beginning of June, you'll be receiving an individual email with your username and password to access this site, along with a link. If you have any questions about what you saw here today or about anything else, please feel free to contact me at info@peopletoPayroll.com. I'm going to go ahead and stay on for a couple more minutes. If anyone has anything they want to submit through the chat feature, please feel free to do so. If not, feel free to go ahead and log off. I do want to thank you for your time you spent here today, and feel free to contact us with any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.